The elevator stopped, not at a floor, between them. And I wasn't alone. At first, I thought it was a technical delay, a glitch, the kind of minor inconvenience people joke about later. But it didn't jerk. It didn't tremble. The lights didn't flicker. It stopped too smoothly, like someone had chosen that exact moment. There were two of us inside the cabin, me and the man who stepped in at the last second, just as the doors were closing. He didn't look at me, didn't greet me, didn't press a button. I pressed 12. The doors closed. We started moving. And only when the elevator stopped, I remembered. He never chose a floor. The light was bright, white, too white for a closed space. I looked at the panel. The display was empty, no number. "It'll start again," I said, more for the silence than for him. He didn't answer. He stood slightly behind me, close, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body. I pressed the open button. Nothing. I pressed the emergency alarm. Silence. No sound. That's when the air changed, not temperature, pressure. I turned. He was looking at the control panel, not confused, not nervous, just observing. "Did you press something?" I asked. A faint smile. No. His hands were down at his sides, relaxed, too relaxed for someone who was stuck. I took out my phone. No signal. Of course, that happens in elevators. I repeated it in my head, so it would sound logical. "Probably maintenance," I said. He tilted his head slightly. "Maybe." But there was no doubt in his voice. There was expectation. I took a small step to the side, created distance. He shifted too, not blocking my way, just closing the space again. And that's when I understood. This wasn't about being stuck. It was about having time. "How long does this usually take?" he asked. "I don't know." He looked up at the camera near the ceiling, a small black dome in the corner. "Do you think it's working?" he asked quietly. Why is that what he cares about? "Of course," I said, even though I wasn't sure. He nodded, slowly, evaluating. "You seem calm," he said. "I am calm." Good. That word sounded different, not neutral, like it was a condition. Good. For what? Good. He repeated it more quietly. "Good that you're calm." I didn't answer. I was counting. The distance to the wall, the distance to him. Whether I could move around him, whether there was space for my elbow. "Strange," he said. "What?" "That it stopped exactly here. Between floors, not at one of them." I swallowed. "That happens." "Not that smoothly," he replied. The light above us didn't flicker, nothing creaked. There was no feeling of malfunction. It felt like a pause. "Do you live here?" he asked. "Yes." "For long?" The question was unnecessary, but I answered. 6 months. He nodded. "Nice building." His eyes drifted to the camera, again. "Sometimes they can be stopped manually," he said. "What?" "Elevators." His voice was calm, almost instructional. "If you know how." My pulse didn't spike, it narrowed, focused. "Who could do that?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "Someone with access." It became quieter inside. Even the ventilation seemed to disappear. "You don't think this is random, do you?" he added. That was unnecessary. I pressed the emergency button again. Nothing. Maybe the connection is just weak, he said, as if he was reassuring me, but not really me. I took another step to the side. He didn't move. Are you scared? He asked. No. Good. That word again. And then I heard it. Not from inside, from above. Metal against metal. Short, like something was shifted. He didn't flinch, didn't turn his head, as if he had been waiting for it. Did you hear that? I asked. Yes, he answered calmly. And then the elevator hummed softly. The display lit up. We started moving, slowly, too slowly. I felt the tension change, not disappear, just turn into something else. When the doors opened on the 12th floor, I stepped out first, without looking back. He didn't rush. Have a good night, he said, and smiled, not with his eyes. The doors closed. I stood in the hallway. My heart was steady, too steady. Then I looked up, at the camera in the corner. There was no red indicator. It wasn't on. The next morning, I went to the building administration. Can I see the elevator footage from last night? They didn't object. I walk in. He walks in after me. And that's when I see something I didn't notice yesterday. He wasn't just standing there. He was looking at the camera, not once, several times. When the elevator stops, he raises his hand, not to the panel, to a small metal slit on the side. He presses something. The camera goes dark for a second. It doesn't freeze, it shuts off. And when it turns back on, he's standing closer to me. One step. I don't remember that. I remember the distance, but the video shows something else. Who has access to the service panel? I asked. The administrator was quiet for a long moment. Only the maintenance company. And if someone learns the code? He shrugged. Then that's a problem. I watched the footage again, and only then I noticed another detail. When the doors opened on the 12th floor, I stepped out. He didn't. He pressed 11, then 12, again. He stayed inside the elevator and came back to my floor. The hallway camera showed the elevator doors opening a second time, 40 seconds after I had entered my apartment. He didn't step out completely. He just looked down the hallway, like he was checking whether I had really gone inside. That evening, I stepped into the elevator again, alone. I pressed 12, and as the doors were closing, I saw his reflection in the metal wall, behind me. Not inside the cabin, in the lobby. He was watching the doors close, and he didn't move. The elevator started moving. It didn't stop, but I understood something. The elevator didn't stop that night to do something. It stopped to test whether I was the kind of person who stands still when space starts to shrink. I don't know if he'll come back, but I know something else. Between floors, a person doesn't disappear. They just stop being random. Before it happens.